Welcome back to Contemporary Conversations on Christian Classics.
where we explore timeless Christian content that continues to inspire today.
You got it. We're diving deeper into Steven Charnock's The Existence and Attributes of God
And today, we're unpacking Chapter 7.
on the Omnipresence of God, Part 1,
It's a concept that can really stretch our understanding
of who God is.
and what it means for Him to be present
Yeah, in our lives.
in our lives.
Absolutely. And Charnock kicks it off
Mm-hmm.
with kind of this gripping scene
Oh, yeah.
from the book of Jeremiah,
Okay.
chapter 23.
Yeah.
You know, where God is confronting those false prophets
Right.
who are promising peace
Yeah.
while judgment is looming.
It's a stark reminder
Oh, yeah.
that we can't just pick and choose the parts of God we like.
Oh, absolutely not.
We have to deal with Him as He truly is.
Right. And that leads us to this powerful question.
Okay.
In Jeremiah 23:24,
Okay.
am I a God at hand, saith the Lord, and not a God afar off?
Mm-hmm.
Can any hide himself in secret places that I shall not see him, saith the Lord?
Yeah.
Do not I fill heaven and earth, saith the Lord.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like God is saying, do you
Uh-huh.
really think you can outsmart me?
Right.
Do you think there's anywhere you can go where I am not?
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
To realize that there's no escaping God's presence.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of scary.
Well, it makes you think twice about those little compromises we make when we think no one is looking.
Exactly. And Charnock takes this idea of God's presence
Mm-hmm.
and really digs into it.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to have a superficial understanding.
Yeah.
He wants us to grasp the depth
Yes.
of what it means for God to be omnipresent.
So he's not just saying God sees everything, right?
Yeah.
More than that.
Much
Yeah.
more. He argues against the idea that God's presence is merely by knowledge, authority, or power.
So it's not like God is this all-knowing CEO who's monitoring us from a distance.
Right. He's not just keeping tabs on us from afar.
Okay.
Charnock is saying that God's presence is essential,
Yeah.
meaning it's an inseparable part of who He is.
Okay, so how does he explain that? Because it's hard to wrap your mind around God being fully present everywhere at the same time.
Well, Charnock uses some powerful imagery
Okay.
to illustrate this concept.
Okay.
One analogy he uses is that of a sponge submerged in the sea.
So we're like the sponge, completely enveloped by God's presence.
Exactly. Just as the sea permeates every part of the sponge,
Yeah.
so God's presence fills every part of creation.
Wow.
He's not just out there somewhere.
Right.
He's right here, right now.
That's a powerful image. Another one he uses is that of light
Yes.
within a crystal globe.
He's saying that God's essence is present in every point of creation.
Yeah.
Just like light illuminates every part of the globe.
Yeah.
It's not that God is divided up into tiny pieces.
Right.
Rather, His whole being is fully present.
Okay.
Everywhere simultaneously. It's mind-boggling to think about. And Charnock dives even deeper into this concept
Mm-hmm.
by looking at Psalm 139,
Yes.
verses 7 through 9.
Yes, specifically verses 7 through 9, where the psalmist talks about trying to flee from God's presence.
Yeah.
He imagines going to heaven,
Okay.
hiding in the depths of Sheol,
Wow.
even escaping to the farthest reaches of the sea.
It's like he's exploring every possible hiding place,
Yeah.
trying to find a spot where God isn't.
And yet the psalmist concludes, if I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me.
It's a beautiful
Mm-mm.
and terrifying realization
Yeah.
that there's simply no escaping God's presence. And
Yeah.
it makes me think,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever tried to run from God?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not literally,
Right.
but in your heart.
Yeah.
Your thoughts and your actions. We've all probably had those moments where we try to compartmentalize our lives,
Yes.
thinking we can keep certain parts hidden from God.
Right.
But this psalm reminds us
Yeah.
that it's simply not possible.
Absolutely not.
God is present in every aspect of our being,
Right.
whether we acknowledge Him or not.
Charnock also brings in Isaiah 66:1 to further emphasize God's immensity.
Okay.
Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you build unto me? And where is the place of my rest?
It's a powerful declaration.
Yes.
God is saying that He's not limited
Uh-huh.
by the boundaries of creation.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
both within the world
Yeah.
and beyond it.
I love how Charnock points out that it's almost as if God is mocking
Oh, yeah.
those who thought they could contain him in a temple.
Right.
It's like he's saying, seriously, you think I can be confined to a building?
It highlights the absurdity of trying to limit an infinite God.
Absolutely.
We can build him the most magnificent cathedrals, but they will always be infinitely too small to contain him.
This brings up an interesting question. If God's omnipresence is so unique, so beyond our comprehension,
Right.
why is it important for us to understand it?
Yeah.
What difference does it make in our everyday lives?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore further in the next part of our deep dive.
Into Charnock's work,
That's right. Welcome back to Contemporary Conversations on Christian Classics.
where we explore timeless Christian content that continues to inspire today.
We've been delving into this profound concept of God's omnipresence with Steven Charnock as our guide.
It's really remarkable to consider God is not confined
Right.
by space or time,
Yeah.
that his presence permeates every corner of creation.
And as we concluded in the previous segment, the question arises,
Yeah.
why is this doctrine so crucial for us to grasp?
Yeah, how does it impact our lives practically? Like, how does this affect me?
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in the theological intricacies.
Right? But we want to bring this truth down to earth
Yeah.
to see how it shapes our everyday experiences.
Absolutely. Charnock provides us with two compelling reasons to support the concept of God's essential presence, his infinite nature,
Okay.
and his continuous operation in the world.
Okay, let's unpack that first reason.
Okay.
God's infinite nature.
Mm-hmm.
What does Charnock say about that?
He argues that because God is infinite, he cannot be limited to any specific location.
Right.
He transcends the boundaries of space and time.
So it's like trying to fit the ocean into a teacup.
Right.
It simply can't be done.
Yeah.
God's vastness cannot be contained.
Precisely. Charnock emphasizes that God's attributes, his power, wisdom, and eternal nature are all infinite.
Right. Yeah.
And this points to an infinite essence.
Okay. He uses a striking analogy to illustrate this point.
Yes.
Comparing a grain of dust to the entire universe.
Yes. He says even if we were to pulverize all the dust in the world into an almost infinitesimal speck,
Wow.
the world would still be less than that in comparison to God.
It's a mind-boggling illustration that helps us grasp the sheer magnitude of God's being.
Right.
So if God's essence is infinite, then his presence must also be infinite, right?
Exactly. And this leads us to Charnock's second reason, God's continuous operation in the world.
Okay.
He contends that because God is constantly working in and through his creation, he must be present everywhere.
He uses the example of God upholding and sustaining all things.
Precisely. Charnock highlights that if God were to withdraw his presence, even for a fleeting moment, everything would cease to exist.
It's a profound thought.
Yeah.
It's like the air we breathe. We don't see it,
Yeah.
but without it, we couldn't survive. God's presence is just as vital,
Yes.
though unseen, for the existence of everything.
Yes, and he challenges the notion that God operates in the world through some kind of diffused power or virtue separate from himself.
Because if that were the case, wouldn't it imply that God's essence isn't truly present?
Right.
That he's working through some intermediary?
That's precisely the issue Charnock raises.
Okay.
He argues that if God were acting through a separate force, it would either have to be a part of God, meaning his essence is present, or a created thing.
And if it were a created thing, wouldn't that mean something else had to create and sustain it?
Exactly.
It seems to lead to an endless loop.
It creates a logical fallacy.
Right.
Charnock's point is that God's power, wisdom, and goodness are inseparable from his essence.
So wherever those attributes are at work, God himself must be present. It's not a delegation of power. It's his very being in action.
Precisely. And Charnock stresses that God operates directly in everything, not needing intermediaries or instruments.
But doesn't God use secondary causes and means in the world, like natural processes or human actions?
He certainly does. However, Charnock explains that this doesn't stem from any limitations on God's part. He chooses to work in this way, accommodating himself to the order he has established.
So he's still the ultimate cause. Even when he employs other means to accomplish his purposes, it's like a author using characters and a plot to tell a story.
Right.
The author is still the creative force behind it all.
That's a great analogy. And even when God uses secondary causes, he is present with them, sustaining and empowering them to fulfill his will.
So God's omnipresence isn't diminished by his use of secondary causes. It's actually affirmed by it.
That's right.
There's like a tapestry woven with intricate threads, each contributing to the overall design and God's hand guiding it all.
That's beautifully put.
Thank you.
It underscores the fact that God's activity in the world is a constant testament to his presence. He's not a distant observer. He's intimately involved in every detail of creation.
This idea of God's intimate involvement in all things, even in the seemingly mundane aspects of our lives, has profound implications for how we view ourselves and our place in the world, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It challenges us to live with a heightened awareness of God's presence, to recognize that we are never truly alone, and that every moment is an opportunity for encounter and communion with him.
This realization can be both comforting and convicting.
Yes.
It's a source of comfort knowing that God is with us always, but it also compels us to examine our lives and align them with his will.
Indeed. It calls us to live with integrity, authenticity, and a deep sense of accountability, knowing that our thoughts, words, and actions are all taking place under the gaze of the one who knows us better than we know ourselves.
Charnock reminds us that our lives are a constant conversation with God, whether we are consciously engaging in it or not. He is present in every whisper of our hearts, in every struggle and triumph, in every moment of joy and sorrow.
And this awareness should lead to a deeper reverence, a greater sense of gratitude, and a more profound love for the God who is always with us, weaving together the tapestry of our lives with his own divine hand.
These are profound truths that deserve our careful consideration and reflection. As we move into the final part of our deep dive into Steven Charnock's work, let's ponder how this understanding of God's omnipresence can transform our daily lives, our relationships, and our walk with him. Welcome back to Contemporary Conversations on Christian Classics,
where we explore timeless Christian content that continues to inspire today.
We've been on quite a journey with Steven Charnock.
Yes, we have.
As he's guided us through this profound concept of God's omnipresence in his book, The Existence and Attributes of God.
It's truly remarkable to consider that we exist within this vast ocean of God's presence, constantly enveloped by his being.
It really shifts your perspective, doesn't it?
Totally.
It's not just about God watching over us. It's about him being intimately present in every aspect of our lives.
Charnock makes a crucial point about this. He reminds us that God's presence isn't something to fear, but something to embrace.
That's so important because I think for many people, the idea of God being everywhere can feel a bit overwhelming, even intimidating.
I understand that. But Charnock wants us to see that God's omnipresence is the foundation of our hope and comfort. It means that no matter where we go, no matter what we face, we are never truly alone.
It's like having a constant companion.
Yeah, exactly.
A loving father who is always there to guide us, protect us, and strengthen us.
He uses the beautiful imagery of a child held securely in their parents' arms. That sense of safety and belonging that comes from knowing we are always in God's care.
It's interesting, though, because if we truly grasp the reality of God's presence, it does change the way we view our choices, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's no longer a matter of getting away with something when we think no one is looking. Because in reality, God is always looking. Not with a judgmental eye, but with a heart full of love. And longing for our good.
It's a call to live with integrity.
Absolutely.
To align our hearts and actions with his will, knowing that we are always in his presence.
Charnock emphasizes that this awareness shouldn't lead to a sense of burden or fear, but to a deeper reverence and gratitude for the God who never leaves us nor forsakes us.
It makes me think about those moments when we feel lost or alone, when we're struggling with doubt or facing difficult circumstances.
In those moments, it's crucial to remember that God's presence is not dependent on our feelings or circumstances. He is just as present in the darkness as he is in the light.
It's a profound comfort to know that even when we can't sense his presence,
he is still there holding us, sustaining us, and working all things together for our good.
This understanding of God's omnipresence also transforms our view of prayer.
Okay, how so?
It's no longer about trying to reach out to a distant God,
Okay.
but about engaging in an intimate conversation.
Yes.
With the one who is already closer to us than our own breath.
It makes prayer less about petition and more about communion, about simply being present.
That's good.
With the one who is always present with us.
And it challenges us to cultivate a lifestyle of prayer.
Yeah.
A constant awareness of God's presence in every aspect of our lives.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Steven Charnock's profound reflections on God's omnipresence, let's carry with us this transformative truth. God is with us always.
May this knowledge inspire us to live with a deeper sense of purpose, gratitude, and awe, knowing that we are constantly held in the embrace of the one who fills all things.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the heart of God's being. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Contemporary Conversations on Christian Classics for more deep dives into timeless Christian content that continues to inspire us today. Until next time, may you experience the fullness of God's presence in your own life.